What's up everyone, Piscean here to bring to you Technic Laboratory, a faculty compendium of working protocols. We're going to look at 4 laboratory protocols: midpoint trees, structure and interpretation, harmonic charts, pure angular geometry, tertiary versus minor progression, side-by-side notes, and Arabic parts, first principles and historical variants. Quick shout out to Grok AI, which I know I would get in trouble for probably in a few years when people figure out that yes, AI is a cool tool. Maybe I will gain more of an audience, but right now it seems like people are saying if you use AI, you don't have a brain, which is just not facts. And I'm not a fan of Elon Musk either. I'm just a fan of being able to make what my idea is come to life, if that makes sense, and bring it to you guys so you can learn astrology for free as well. And also, it's not even the AI, it's usually report labs. It's mainly report labs. So, yeah. Methods are treated as laboratory protocols, not software outputs. We see celestial faculty writing manuscript. So first, we're looking at midpoint trees, structure and interpretation. So a midpoint is a circular mean of 2 longitudes. It is not a planet. It is a sensitive degree that responds when activated by transit, progression, or another natal body. Midpoint trees organize these points into hierarchical families so that the practitioner can see which combinations carry the greatest structural weight. So we see here M equals A plus B divided by 2. Circular mean. Construction protocol. Manual. Convert both positions to absolute longitude 0 degrees to 360 degrees. Add them. Divide by 2. If the result falls more than 180 degrees from either body, add or subtract 180 degrees to obtain the nearer midpoint. Plot the degree. The most commonly weighted trees begin with the Sun Moon midpoint as the root of the personal axes, then branch to the personal planets, social planets, and finally the outer planets. So here we see outer transpersonal, schematic midpoint hierarchy, lights, personal, social, outer. So we see the lights, luminaries, we see personal planets, we see the social planets, and we see the outer transpersonal. So here's the interpretation rule of thumb. A midpoint that is itself occupied or tightly aspected by a third body becomes a 3-planet statement. Unoccupied midpoints remain latent until activated. The Sun-Moon midpoint is the most personal of all. When it is hit, the native often experiences a temporary alignment or first confrontation of will and feeling. Treat midpoint trees as structural maps, not predictive laundry lists. Alright, on to harmonic charts, pure angular geometry. A harmonic chart is obtained by multiplying every natal longitude by an integer n and reducing multiple 360 degrees. The resulting positions reveal the unfold symmetries latent in the original chart. No software is required once the principle is understood. The geometry itself is the content. The fifth harmonic, n equals 5, divides the circle into 72 degree segments. Planets that appear conjunct in the 5th house chart were originally separated by multiples of 72 degrees, quintile or biquintile. I meant to say the 5th harmonic, quintile or biquintile, not the 5th house. These are the angles of pure generation, the capacity to bring form into existence, rather than merely to combine existing forms. The 7th harmonic, which equals 51.4 degrees, speaks to an inspiration in the irrational, while the 9th to completion and the dharmic pattern. We see 72 degrees, quintile family. We see 51.4 degrees, inspiration. And we see 40 degrees, completion. So the 5th harmonic, the 7th harmonic, and the 9th harmonic. So, laboratory procedure, the first thing to do is convert natal positions to absolute longitude, multiply each by n, subtract 360 degrees until the result lies between 0 degrees and 360 degrees. Replot. Conjunctions in the harmonic chart are the only aspects that matter for first order reading. They indicate the original planets shared in an n-fold relationship. Empty harmonic charts are themselves informative. They indicate the absence of that particular generated or inspirational signature. Do not interpret harmonic planets as stronger or weaker. Interpret them as differently tuned. A dense 5th harmonic Mercury-Uranus midheaven web frequently appears in the charts of those who experience ideas as retrieved rather than constructed. That is a phenomenological observation, not a promise of genius. Here we're looking at tertiary versus minor progression side by side. Secondary progressions, 1 day equals 1 year, remain the backbone of symbolic timing. 2 finer systems, tertiary and minor, are frequently confused. Both are valid, they simply measure different clocks. The laboratory task is to keep their premises distinct. We see tertiary progressions, 1 sidereal day equals 1 year. Moon moves 13 degrees a day. 13 degrees per progressed year, sensitive to lunar rhythm, useful for emotional timing, and finer than secondary. And we see minor progressions is 1 lunar month equals 1 year, moon cycle equals 27.3 days, slower symbolic clock. Emphasizes lunar returns, good for habit and cycle work, less commonly applied. So, tertiary progressions. These equate one-sided royal day after birth with 1 year of life. Because the moon travels approximately 13 degrees per day, the tertiary moon moves roughly 13 degrees per progressed year, far faster than the secondary moon's 1 degree per month. This makes tertiary progressions especially useful for tracking emotional weather and short to medium-term shifts in feeling tone that secondary progressions smooth over. We see minor progressions equate 1 lunar month, mean or anomalistic according to school, with 1 year of life. The symbolic clock is therefore keyed to the moon's own return cycle. Minor progressions tend to highlight habituation, repeated emotional patterns, and the gradual sedimentation of experience. They are slower and less dramatic than tertiary emotions and are correspondingly underused. Side-by-side protocol. So for any significant secondary progression, for example, progressed sun changing signs and progressed moon to natal angle, cast both the tertiary and minor charts for the same real-time window. Note where the tertiary moon or angles contact natal or secondary positions. Note where the minor chart shows lunar phase echoes. The secondary gives the structural chapter, the tertiary oftentimes the emotional paragraph. The minor reveals the recurring motif. Never collapse the 3 clocks into one. In Arabic parts, we're looking at first principles and variants. So Arabic parts, or lots, are derived points obtained by the formula ascendant adding planet A subtracting planet B, or analogous angular combinations. They are not planets, they are calculated sensitive degrees, whose meaning is defined by the 2 bodies and the angle used. The earliest systematic treatment appears in Hellenistic sources. The medieval Arabic astrologers expanded and standardized the catalog. So we see the part of fortune for day birth versus that night birth, and all longitudes measured in absolute degrees. Core laboratory rules: always work in absolute longitude. Respect the day-night distinction for the classical POF and POS, so parts of fortune and parts of spirit. Reversing the formula at night is not optional if one claims the traditional lineage. The part is only as meaningful as the 2 planets or points that generate it. A part of fortune calculated from a weak or afflicted moon will not magically become a point of ease. And here is selected classical parts for the day formula. So part of fortune, ascendant adding moon subtracting sun. Part of spirit, ascendant adding sun subtracting moon. Part of eros, love, ascendant adding Venus subtracting spirit, or variations. Part of necessity, ascendant adding fortune subtracting spirit. Part of courage, ascendant adding fortune subtracting Mars. And a part of victory, ascendant adding Jupiter subtracting spirit. So historical variants: some Hellenistic authors use the LOF as the ascendant for a second set of derived lots. The releasing technique: medieval writers sometimes substituted the POS for the sun in certain formulae. Modern practitioners occasionally omit the day-night reversal. This produces a consistent but non-traditional point. The laboratory stance is simple. State which lineage you are following, calculate accordingly, and do not make systems inside a single reading without explicit notice. Activation: a part becomes loud when a planet transits or progresses to it, or when it falls on an angle in a return chart. Unactivated parts remain structural potentials. Treat them as you would midpoints, sensitive degrees, not independent actors. And the closing calibration is method before output. These 4 protocols share a single premise. The chart is the geometry before it is software. Midpoint trees, harmonic multiplications, progression clocks, and Arabic parts can all be constructed with paper, pencil, and an ephemeris. The moment the practitioner can no longer perform the operation by hand, the technique has become opaque and therefore less trustworthy. Use the laboratory frame deliberately, state your premises, draw the figure, interpret only what the figure actually shows, resist the temptation to let a program's default orbs or display options decide the hierarchy of meaning. The faculty's advantage is not access to more data. It is the capacity to decide which data matter and why. That is the end of this Technique Lab Companion. Thank you for watching with peace and love, and I'll see you in the next video. Piscean out.